In the cold, unforgiving depths of space, two young women stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the emptiness that stretched before them. Hanul and Byul Kim were not ordinary sisters, and their story was far from typical. The mining colony of Epsilon 7 was nothing more than a forgotten outpost, a place where broken dreams and discarded humans found their final resting place. Jagged metal structures jutted from rocky terrain, casting long shadows under the dim light of a distant sun. Here, among the rusted machinery and abandoned processing units, the Kim sisters had been left to survive or perish. President Kang, their father, was a powerful man. But power in the galactic political landscape was a cruel and selective thing. When the Galactic Council convened, humans were treated like second-class citizens, their achievements barely acknowledged, their potential completely dismissed. Hanul, the older twin by 7 minutes, was lean and sharp-eyed. Her mind worked like a complex algorithm, constantly calculating, always 3 steps ahead. Byul, slightly shorter but no less intense, had hands that could transform broken technology into miracles of engineering. Their history was a painful one. Born as the result of a complicated political arrangement, they were never meant to exist in the official records. President Kang's primary lineage, his sons and sanctioned daughters, were groomed for political prominence. Hanul and Byul were the inconvenient truth, the genetic experiment that was supposed to remain hidden. The mining colony was their punishment and their classroom. Each day brought new challenges: finding water, repairing critical life support systems, avoiding the predatory gangs that roamed the outer sectors. They learned quickly that survival was not about strength, but about adaptability. Byul would spend hours dismantling old communication arrays, understanding their intricate systems. Her fingers, nimble and precise, would rebuild components with an intuition that bordered on magic. Hanul, meanwhile, would map out resource routes, study the behavioral patterns of colony inhabitants, and create complex survival strategies. Their living quarters was a converted shipping container, reinforced with scavenged metal and lined with makeshift electronic systems. Every inch of space was functional. Every item had a purpose. They didn't believe in waste, a lesson learned from years of surviving on the margins. The Galactic Council's annual report had a single line about human colonies, marginal, inconsequential, limited potential. Those words, which would have crushed lesser spirits, only fueled the sisters' determination. One particular evening, as toxic dust storms raged outside their reinforced shelter, Byul discovered something extraordinary in an old data module. Fragments of advanced genetic research hidden deep within corrupted files suggested that their father had implemented something unique in their genetic structure. "We're not accidents," Hanul said quietly, studying the data alongside her sister. "We're deliberately designed." Their whispers were drowned by the howling winds outside, but the realization was like a spark in the darkness. They were more than forgotten daughters. They were a carefully constructed plan. The mining colony's communication network was a joke, outdated systems that barely functioned. But to Byul, it was a playground of potential. She began modifying receivers, creating communication pathways that could bypass standard protocols. Hanul, using her strategic mind, started mapping the complex political landscapes of various galactic sectors. She studied trade routes, military movements, and the intricate dance of interstellar politics. They didn't know it yet, but they were preparing. Not for survival, but for something much larger. As months turned into years, Hanul and Byul Kim transformed from forgotten colony inhabitants to something else entirely. They were becoming a force, quiet, calculated, and waiting for the right moment. The Galactic Council would laugh at Human King's unwanted twin daughters. But they would not be laughing for long. In the vast, cold emptiness of space, a plan was taking shape, and no one, absolutely no one, saw it coming. The mining colony's harsh environment had transformed Hanul and Byul into something unexpected. No longer were they just survivors. They were becoming architects of their own destiny. Byul's hands moved with precision across an old communication panel. Circuits that would have been trash to others were living components under her touch. She wasn't just repairing technology, she was reimagining it. Each modified circuit brought them closer to something bigger. Hanul watched her sister work, her eyes calculating every movement. Their living space was a maze of modified equipment, half workshop, half survival chamber. Broken communication modules hung from walls like strange mechanical art. Old cooling systems hummed with new life, adapted beyond their original design. One night, during a particularly violent dust storm, Biol made a breakthrough. A communication system she had been working on for months suddenly came alive. Strange signals began to pulse. Not just random noise, but something more structured. "Listen," she whispered to Hanul, her fingers dancing across the modified panels. The signals were complex. They weren't from any standard galactic communication network. These were encrypted messages, fragments of information that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. Hanul leaned closer. Her mind was already breaking down the signal patterns, discovering hidden layers of communication. Most would have seen random noise. She saw a language, a secret communication system that existed between the lines of standard galactic networks. Their first real opportunity came unexpectedly. A damaged supply ship crashed near their colony sector. Most would have seen it as a potential threat. Hanul and Biol saw it as a resource. The ship was a technological treasure. Its communication systems were advanced, far beyond anything used in standard mining colonies. Biol worked for days, carefully extracting components. She wasn't just salvaging, she was learning. Hanul mapped their potential movements. The crashed ship's location was strategic. It sat at an intersection of multiple trade routes. Information was more valuable than the physical components. They discovered something shocking. The ship belonged to a classified research division, something connected to high-level galactic political networks. Someone wanted this information hidden. Their first real test came when a patrol ship approached the colony. Standard protocol would have been to hide, to remain invisible. But Hanul and Biol were done being invisible. Biol's modified communication systems went to work. She created a digital camouflage, making their small section of the colony appear exactly like every other unremarkable location. The patrol ship passed without a second glance. "We're getting better," Hanul said, a rare smile crossing her face. Their survival skills went beyond physical strength. They understood systems, how they worked, how they could be manipulated. The mining colony was their training ground, and they were becoming masters. Food was always a challenge, but they solved it systematically. Biol modified hydroponics systems, creating efficient growing chambers. Hanul calculated precise nutritional requirements. Where others saw limitations, they saw opportunities. Weeks turned into months. Their skills grew. Biol could now transform broken communication arrays into advanced tracking systems. Hanul could predict supply route patterns with mathematical precision. They were preparing. But for what? They weren't entirely sure. The galactic political landscape was complex. Humans were considered minor players, barely worth mentioning. Most human colonies were struggling, fighting for basic resources. But Hanul and Biol were different. They weren't just surviving, they were building something. Their modified communication network began picking up more signals. Fragments of conversations from different sectors, hints of political movements, whispers of technological advances. "We're collecting pieces," Hanul would say. "One day we'll understand the entire picture." Biol would just nod, her hands already working on the next modification. In the vast, unforgiving landscape of the mining colony, two sisters were becoming something the Galactic Council had never anticipated. They were no longer just human. They were something else entirely, and their journey was just beginning. The first ship emerged from the shadows like a ghost, sleek, impossible, and absolutely silent. Biol's creation was nothing like standard galactic vessels. Its hull absorbed radiation instead of reflecting it, making traditional tracking systems useless. Hanul stood beside her sister, watching the ship's diagnostic screens. Every component was a testament to human innovation. Where other species saw limitations, they saw opportunities. The ship was more than metal and circuits. It was a statement. Their first target was a standard trade route used by the Galactic Council's primary merchant fleet. Most would have considered such a mission suicide. For the Kim sisters, it was a calculated risk. The ship moved differently. Traditional propulsion systems relied on predictable physics. Biol's design used quantum manipulation. Each movement was a mathematical puzzle that defied standard navigation protocols. One moment it would appear, the next, it would vanish. Hanel's strategy was brutal in its simplicity. They wouldn't destroy ships, they would disrupt systems. Communication networks would experience unexplained interruptions. Navigation systems would suddenly malfunction. Trade routes would become unpredictable. Their first operation was almost too easy. A massive merchant vessel suddenly lost all navigation control. Its expensive cargo, advanced technological components became floating debris. The Galactic Council's response teams were confused, unable to track the source of the disruption. Biol had embedded invisible tracking algorithms into the merchant ship systems. Each piece of scattered cargo became a data collector. Information flowed back to their modified communication network like blood through hidden veins. "We're not fighting," Hanul explained during one planning session. "We're demonstrating." Their modified ship could transform. What appeared to be a simple transport vessel could reconfigure its external structure in seconds. Sensors would see one thing, but reality would be something completely different. The mining colony was no longer their prison. It had become their laboratory, their launching point for a much larger mission. Information became their primary weapon. They weren't just collecting data, they were understanding complex galactic political systems. Trade routes, military movements, economic dependencies, everything was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Biol's technological innovations were remarkable. She could turn standard communication arrays into advanced tracking systems. Old cooling. Units became sophisticated energy collectors. Broken communication modules transformed into complex intelligence-gathering networks. Their second major operation targeted a high-security research station. The station believed itself impenetrable. Within hours, its entire security network was compromised. No alarms were triggered. No physical damage was done. But every single system was subtly manipulated. Hanul's strategic mind saw beyond immediate actions. Each operation was a message. Humans were not weak. Humans were not limited. Humans could adapt and overcome. The Galactic Council began to notice. Reports started flowing about unexplained technological disruptions. Standard tracking systems were failing. Expensive equipment was becoming unreliable. Their ship, which they quietly named Horizon, became a legend among underground communication networks. Some believed it was an advanced AI. Others thought it was a ghost ship. The truth was far more interesting. Resources were always a challenge. But they solved it systematically. Biol could transform broken equipment into advanced systems. Hanul could predict resource patterns with mathematical precision. One particular mission demonstrated their true potential. A massive trade convoy carrying billions in advanced technological components suddenly found its navigation systems compromised. The ships didn't crash. They didn't explode. They simply drifted. The economic impact was enormous. Insurance. Companies went into panic. Trade routes became uncertain. The Galactic Council's perfect system showed its first real cracks. "We're not destroying," Hanul would often say. "We're revealing weaknesses." Biol would just smile, her fingers already working on the next modification. Their technological uprising was more than a series of attacks. It was a statement. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators. They were disruptors, and they were just getting started. The galaxy was about to change, and no one saw it coming. The Galactic Council's response was swift and brutal. They deployed their most advanced warships, believing they would crush the human threat quickly. They were wrong. Massive battleships surrounded the sector where the Kim sisters had been traced. Thousands of weapon systems powered up, ready to eliminate the source of their recent technological nightmares. Advanced targeting computers locked onto predicted coordinates. Destruction seemed inevitable. Hanul watched the incoming fleet with cold calculation. Her fingers moved across holographic displays, tracking each ship's movement with mathematical precision. Biol sat beside her, a network of modified communication systems humming around them. "They're predictable," Hanul whispered. The first wave of attacks came precisely as she anticipated. Energy weapons that could slice through standard ship hulls like paper. Massive electromagnetic pulse generators designed to shut down any technological resistance. But the Kim sisters were not standard. Their ship, the Horizon, wasn't just a vessel. It was a living system that could adapt faster than any standard computer could process. When the first energy weapon fired, the ship's hull simply shifted. Molecular structures rearranged themselves, turning destructive energy into harmless. Biol's modifications turned their ship into something between technology and living organism. Sensors would see one thing, but reality would be completely different. Each attack made the ship stronger, more adaptable. The Galactic Council's eyeing, military commanders watched in horror. Their most advanced weapons were becoming useless. Ships that cost billions in development were being rendered ineffective by two human sisters. Communication networks went crazy. Reports became confused. Some claimed it was an advanced AI. Others suggested secret alien technology. The truth was far more simple and far more terrifying. Hanul's strategy was elegant in its simplicity. They weren't fighting to destroy. They were fighting to demonstrate weakness. Each defensive move revealed more about the Galactic Council's technological limitations. One by one, warships began experiencing strange malfunctions. Navigation systems would suddenly fail. Weapon arrays would become temporarily non-responsive. It wasn't destruction. It was systematic disruption. The battle wasn't happening in physical space. It was happening in digital networks, in communication systems, in the very fabric of technological infrastructure. Biol had prepared for this moment her entire life. Her modified systems could communicate with enemy ships at a level no standard computer could understand. She wasn't hacking. She was speaking a language of pure information. Their small ship moved like liquid mercury. Traditional tracking systems couldn't lock onto it. When energy weapons fired, the ship would simply shift, not disappear, not cloak, just become something else entirely. Military commanders screamed orders. Backup fleets were called. Entire communication networks were mobilized. But each action only revealed more vulnerabilities. The Kim sisters weren't just fighting. They were teaching a lesson. Humans were not weak. Humans were not limited. Humans could adapt and overcome. Hours turned into days. The battle continued, but it wasn't a traditional battle. It was a demonstration of technological superiority. Each moment revealed another layer of the Galactic Council's technological limitations. Hanul tracked everything, every movement, every communication, every failed attack. Her mind was processing information faster than entire military computer networks. Biol continued modifying systems in real time. What appeared to be a simple communication array would suddenly become an advanced tracking network. Old cooling. Units transformed into sophisticated energy collectors. The Galactic Council's most advanced warships began returning to base. Not destroyed, not defeated, simply confused. Their entire understanding of technological warfare had been challenged. "We're not destroying," Hanul would later explain. "We're revealing." As the final ships retreated, something became clear. This was more than a battle. This was a message. Humans were no longer going to be ignored. The galaxy watched, and everything was about to change. The aftermath of the technological battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hanul and Biol Kim stood before the Galactic Council, not as criminals but as architects of a new reality. The council chamber was massive, a circular room designed to intimidate. Holographic displays flickered with data from their recent confrontation. Representatives from hundreds of species watched in tense silence. "We are not here to destroy," Hanul began, her voice calm and precise. "We are here to restructure." Bayol stepped forward, carrying a data module that contained something more powerful than any weapon. It was a complete analysis of the Galactic Council's systemic failures. Every weakness, every hidden corruption, every overlooked potential, the module connected to the central system. Suddenly, every representative saw their own political and technological limitations exposed. Secrets that had been hidden for generations became visible. Trade routes that seemed efficient were revealed as deeply flawed. Military strategies that appeared strong were shown to be fundamentally broken. Economic systems that claimed fairness were exposed as deeply manipulative. Human potential, long dismissed, was now impossible to ignore. The first hour was chaos. Representatives shouted, diplomatic protocols collapsed. But Hanul and Bayol remained calm. They weren't attacking. They were presenting a new framework. Their proposal was simple yet revolutionary. Every species would have genuine representation. Technological exchange would become mandatory. Resource distribution would be based on actual capability, not political manipulation. Smaller species that had been marginalized suddenly found a voice. Technology would no longer be a weapon of control, but a tool of collective progress. Bayol's technological innovations became the foundation. Communication systems that could translate not just language, but cultural context. Resource management. Algorithms that could predict and prevent conflicts before they started. Hanul's strategic mind redrew political boundaries. No longer would powerful species dominate. Collaborative potential would become the new currency of galactic interaction. The Council's oldest members watched in shock. These were not conquerors. These were architects of a completely new system. "Humans have always been more than you believed," Hanul said. Her words were measured, each sentence a calculated strike. The data module continued revealing information: hidden trade agreements, secret military preparations, economic manipulations that had existed for generations. Nothing remained concealed. Some representatives tried to resist, but their own systems had been thoroughly analyzed. Every attempt to block or manipulate was immediately exposed. Bayol had prepared for this moment her entire life. Her systems could communicate at levels no standard network could comprehend. She wasn't just presenting information. She was redesigning communication itself. The transformation wasn't violent. It was systematic. Like a complex machine being carefully recalibrated, the entire galactic political structure began to shift. Species that were once competitors began to see collaborative potential. Technology exchanges became mandatory. Resource distribution became based on actual capability, not political manipulation. Smaller civilizations that had been ignored suddenly found themselves with genuine opportunities. Educational exchanges, technological sharing, real diplomatic representation. As hours turned into days, a new framework emerged. The Galactic Council was no longer a place of political maneuvering. It became a genuine platform for collective progress. Hanul and Bayol weren't just changing a system. They were proving a fundamental truth about potential. Humanity was never weak. Hanul said in her final statement, "We were just waiting for the right moment." The galaxy listened, and everything changed. What began as a story of two forgotten daughters became a revolution, not through destruction, but through understanding, not through violence, but through innovation. The Unwanted daughters had rewritten the rules of an entire civilization, and they were just getting started.